Hi everyone, today I would like to talk about the energetic evolution of our consciousness. As you can see in the graph, it's a system based connected with the seven chakra system. There's many different system of chakra which are energetical point we have in our body. This one is the Indian system, and there's a Tibetan one also that's popular with the five chakra and many other systems. But today, for the purpose of my explanation, I use the seven chakra system. And all of this doesn't come from established school of thought or philosophy. It just came from my own journey and the way I interpret everything. And so feel free to comment your disagreement or to let me know if you resonate with it. Alright, so if we start on the first chakra, we start from the bottom here. And this is people who are usually we're concerned. That's for everyone. We're first concerned for our survival, for food, shelter, and reproduction. And either this is the part where people will lower consciousness will, and that's also children, babies, focus not on others but on self or surviving. And so if we have a difficult upbringing, we might commit stuff, but it's only for survival. We might even hurt others, but it's for survival. And so when we're able to overcome survival, then we can explore and experience pleasure, which is the second one. And first, so those three one, I regroup them as the unconscious. So as unconscious being at the first stage, we have the power to experience those three chakras. So survival, pleasure, and confidence or willpower. And all those three is the unconscious level where we're focused mainly for survival or the ego growth. The word pleasure, power, and just doing stuff that are bringing excitement for the ego, mainly usually following conditioning. Um, and then when we're raising in consciousness, usually the first experience of higher consciousness is love, falling in love with someone. It feels magic. And of course, there's people who've been heartbroken and they don't believe love exists, but this is usually a first experience of a deeper connection that is beyond the ego. We're melting with our partner if it's true love. And it's our first understanding that something else exists. In the same way as orgasm is not just pleasure, it's really like the epitome of pleasure. And so love, it's an upgrade or a deeper experience of energetical point. Like orgasm is at the lower chakra, a powerful experience at the lower chakra, and then love is an intermediate experience at the middle chakra, and then there's a divine connection, which we'll explain later. That is the divine connection, which is also another experience for the noise. I'm in a hotel. I'm in a transition. I'm traveling with my mom at the moment in the Philippines, if you must know. And so I put all of them in block of three. So those one are block of three. So when we're not surviving anymore, then we can experience love. Like, so if you're starving and you're homeless when you're kids or neglected, and then somebody adopt you because your parent couldn't offer you that, then you're raising yourself out of survival, and then you're realizing something different. So every time we want to raise up, usually there's something at the lower part that we are kind of letting go, or that we are not experiencing anymore. And so if we keep rising after love, we have communication of truth. So communication of truth is mostly about our emotion. A lot of us are staying in the same job, staying with their parents, staying with their partners, staying with friends to not hurt others. We are even over pushing our boundaries. So meaning that we allow other people to hurt us at the macro level because we're not able to speak our boundaries because we believe and they are good people, but we believe we shouldn't hurt their feelings, and therefore we're not speaking our own truth. And it doesn't mean that we necessarily have to clean everyone from our life. Maybe it's possible, but it's to learn how to be able to speak in peace and sustain connection and love and appreciation, but to not allow something that doesn't resonate with us anymore, so they can understand that it's not about them. It's not like I don't want to hang out with my friend anymore. It's just I don't want to go. Say for example, I don't want to go to the bar, or I don't want to. I don't feel like I don't know if you're vegan. You don't want to go eat burgers anymore. So it's just really this is the beginning of the phase. Of course, eventually you become. It's possible that you be so different that all your high school friends are thinking that you're just a waiter, and then there's just a process of you speaking your truth automatically increase the distance they feel with you. And of course, if they most of the time there's a split in the journey, and then if we both are learning how to follow truth, then sometimes there's meeting back many years later, which happened to me. The spiritual journey is not something for us to like push on others, but it's for us to assume first on our own. And if it's possible, create inspiration toward others by being honest and truthful with ourselves and others. And eventually, when they're ready, they remember like, oh, tea is different. Tease me. And then by knowing that they know someone that made it and was able to push through the the resistance that's coming from society, from friends, it's easier for others, for the number two, three, and four of our friend and family to eventually speak their own truth by themselves and pave their own path toward their own inner journey. And so, speaking the truth, which is I forgot the, but the throat chakra, I forgot the Indian name. And so, this is when our consciousness is rising, and because we have to take a path. When we are feeling different, but we're not acting different, then we're staying the same and imprison our soul, our consciousness within the conditioning that keeps us where we currently are. And so this is the phase where we're starting to detach ourselves from worldly desire and the necessary for personal pleasure, meaning that it's possible to experience pleasure. But I feel it's different now. So even in lovemaking, I feel there's a difference between fucking someone, or making love. Fucking, I feel it's a selfish act, using someone else's genital for own pleasure and vice versa. And making love, it's the focus on pleasuring someone else, and that brings pleasure to me. And of course, pleasurable for myself, but the focus is not on me, but it's on others. And if the partner I'm with is experiencing pleasure, then that brings pleasure to me. So I still experience pleasure sometimes, but it's not in a selfish way anymore. And that also is experienced outside of sexuality and relationship. That I don't. I feel that before, pleasure has to be personal, has to be about me. But now it's about connection, it's about joy, it's about, I don't know, when I dance, now I'm like, I don't rock climb anymore, and I'm more into dancing. It's about connecting with the music, with the community, with the dance floor. And yeah, pleasure is not something of the mind, if it makes sense. It's a full body experience, and that includes dancing. Um, I feel that before, say, when I used to take drugs before my spiritual journey, it was mostly happening between my ears, and now joy and pleasure is experienced throughout the whole body and even out of body experience. Even when I dance, I do feel I'm a picky dancer, but if I do dance and everything feels perfect, it feels really like a spiritual experience. I feel like I'm high on drugs, although I didn't take any drugs or any substances. Yeah. So pleasure is experience, but it's not personal. And then we go to the third eye, the intuition, where the communication with higher wisdom. And as you can see, as we're going up here, we're moving away from this. So now we're 4, 5, and 6, and it's super conscious at this stage where we understand that in order to rise ourselves higher, we have to let go of uh, those chakras, ego doing and ego recognition. So really, the third eye is speaking to. It's not that I'm not experiencing anything in my body and my mind anymore, but it's really that it loses importance, it loses its priority. So it's not loses importance, but it becomes on the back burner. Before, I think the best metaphor I can give is that my ego was the driver and the car is my body or my is the journey, the vehicle in which I'm using journey to go towards somewhere. And the soul or my intuition was unconscious, either passenger on the back seat. And then you arrive in those level, and then the passenger wake up. So it's like, and then you realize there's something more than the ego. But still, the ego doesn't want to let go control of the vehicle that is your life. But eventually, from the story I heard from people who have been in a journey similar like me, for me, I had to let go. My ego, I had to let go the wheels of my life to my true self because I got so many injuries. So I expressed in previous video that in 2011, 2012, I had 11 serious injury all on the right side. And for other people, it would be cancer. For other people, it would be a significant loss. For other people, it would be diseases, allergy. It could be anything that make you unable to enjoy life as it used to be. So, because when everything goes well in your ego life, then you cannot want more. Like your life is perfect. It's really when life takes it away from your ego, and then you are not smart enough, and the specialists that have big brain that you know are not smart enough to help you get it back, that eventually you either kill yourself or you surrender. You surrender to either God. That's why people start praying when I don't know if there's an attack in the plane and it's about to crash. People of all religion and no religion are starting to pray when they have no power and they have to surrender, and suddenly they start praying in something they didn't ever believe before. And it's the same. When I had all those injuries, I was about to break, and so I had to let go. And by letting go and allowing it to take the lead, meaning the passenger that was in true self take the lead, and the ego is not going out of the car. We're not ejecting or killing or dismissing or suppressing the ego, but we're just putting it as a passenger. The same way as I would say that in a boat, the captain should be the true self, and the sailor is still useful. The ego is still useful, but it is meant to be the sailor, is meant to be the helper, is meant to be the doer to achieve her destiny, to achieve her purpose. So the duality, it's normal. There's a fight and a resistance within herself when the ego always had the power, always had the lead. But then it's to create a relationship with our ego where we will show that the ego will have more to be proud of, more to show off, more to accomplish by allowing the true self to be in control of her life instead of a reckless teenager ego just wanting to have fun and experience stuff. And so the voice of the true self is spoken through the intuition and is directing us toward higher divine connection. And this is where we're at last. And this is a really it's a controversial, but I did experience this, that eventually I didn't feel any connection with human. So you can see here that every time you rise up, you dismiss, and so when you're on up here, you don't even experience love and human connection. And that's what I wrote here. It's controversial because human connection are special, many a significant one. I had a phase on my spiritual journey at the end where I could feel nothing. So I was not hungry, I was not feeling physical pain. I was really skinny. I was eating, at the lowest, I was eating maybe 300 or 400 calories a day for almost a year. But I feel amazing. I climbed my biggest mountain on a fruit diet. When it was a time for me to restart climbing, to actually climb Patagonia in South America, I restarted eating a little bit more than 300 or 400 calories. I was likely in the range of maximum 1,000 calories. And on the first day, after not climbing for a year plus, I was carrying 47 kg, and I was probably weighing 140 pounds, which is, I don't know, maybe, I think I was carrying 80% of my body weight. That's what I calculated back then, which is a lot, and I was on flip-flop, but I used to be always on flip-flop, so that was not a big deal. But it's up high in the mountain. It's where base camp is already at the snow level. It's really cold. And months before, I got robbed my badass $1,000 down sleeping bag, and I was too cheap. Sorry, I was too cheap to buy another one. So I ended up sleeping for 3 months, and it took me 4 months to get ready to climb the mountain. For 3 months, I didn't have a sleeping bag. I had a good down jacket and pants, but I had no sleeping bag at all. Maybe just a blanket, because I couldn't find anything of good quality for a reasonable price. It was just low quality, medium and low quality for a really expensive price, and I didn't bother. And I just toughed it up. And in a way, it's like, it's not true that I didn't experience pain, and it's not true that at the time I didn't experience hunger anymore. But somehow it didn't bother me, or it was not so bad that I was suffering. Exactly, I felt it, but I was not suffering, compared to, like, if you eat 3 meals, 4 meals a day, and then you skip a meal, you're not feeling good. There's at the beginning of a level of suffering that is starting, and if you miss a second meal, third meal, you're agonizing and you can't move. And I didn't feel that at all for all those years. So there was discomfort, and there was acknowledgement. So if hunger came, but for me, I realized, and I'm going sidetrack a little bit, but even if I felt hungry, because I questioned myself many times if I had a eating disorder, and not just by myself, but from the perspective of others. And I was 100% sure not, because it was just experimenting with my body, with the pushing my limits. And I think the difference, from what I understand, because I don't think I ever had eating disorder, is that eating disorder, you're focused on your image. For many years, I had no mirror. I had no. I knew I was thinner. I knew my clothes looked smaller, but I didn't care at all what I looked like. And actually, I was really fit before that. So, like, the conditioning would have made me feel that I wouldn't want. I never was overweight. Um, I was being really, really active and in relatively good shape. And so losing all this weight was definitely more challenging as a man in society. I did it because it was a path. It was just following my intuition, and I just didn't question it. And that's what is difficult when we follow our intuition compared to when we follow our mind. Our mind is telling stories. So there's a beginning, there's why, and there's a future. There's a storytelling telling us where it's coming from and where this decision is going. Intuition is just a revelation. There's no beginning, and we don't know why, where it's going. And so it's like a stranger show up in your life. You just somebody walk and say, "Follow me." Do you go? Do you trust your gut feeling to know if it's gonna harm you, or who's this guy, or what does he want? And all those questions are never answered. And if you trust blindly and it's truly coming from the intuition, the answer might come days, months, or years later, but they feel right. They feel sometimes scary, sometimes I question myself, but it's all coming from the mind. But this new, engine of decision that is not that overcomes the mind, it's becoming stronger, more powerful, and more brings more clarity. Clarity for the ego. The first time is like, what the fuck? And then when you trust, if you hitchhike and the first experience of hitchhiking, think you almost die, then there's a good chance you're never gonna hitchhike again. But if you hitchhike one time and it's scary and it's the best experience of your life, and then you hitchhike the second time and it's amazing as well, and it's like 10 times, and then there's a good chance that the 11th time you will jump blindlessly. I think it's still good to be curious and careful, meaning that like follow your gut feeling. If it's like somebody that feels too sketchy, and maybe not somebody's dangerous, but maybe drives sketchy, you just ask to opt out, and then trust your gut feeling. I mean, there is some bad people out there. So, but I think if you're not truly seeking for adventure, and adrenaline is the same thing with psychedelic. There's a lot of people who have had bad experience, even dying. But there's also a lot of people who have life-changing experience. And so I think it depends with the intention and also the setup. And all of this, I feel that when it happened to me, it didn't came from my mind. Oh, I want to take this experience. I want to do this, and or somebody told me about it. It really came from me. There was many years between me being open to psychedelic and me experiencing it for the first time. I didn't want to chase for it. I wanted to come toward me, and I knew I would be ready when it came to me, and that's what happened. Um, I'm all over the place. Sorry. Yeah. So losing human connection, and I remember. So I was not feeling anything in the body and personally, and I had like to introspect. Is like the person I'm closest to is probably my mother. I'm traveling with her a couple months every year now, and that was not always the case. We used to be apart for many years, but we both did our work. And I would travel around the world a couple months a year. And in the depth of my journey, there was another time when I used to spend a lot of time with her. There was an acknowledgement that I could put myself into the idea that if ever, for any reason, she died, I knew that I wouldn't feel anything. And then, and then I questioned myself if it was right or wrong, or what had happened to me already. And I think it was necessary. There's a lot of people say that spiritual people are fully disconnected with themselves. They're bypassing their emotions, they're bypassing reality, they're bypassing paying their bills, responsibility, everything. Um, but I feel it was necessary. I don't want to sound too arrogant. I don't want to sound that I'm somewhere and others are not. I'm just expressing what feels alive in me. And so the first drawing, I feel I went to all this journey and eventually, I don't know if I'm even there yet. Maybe I'm just here. And um, and eventually I came back down. I don't know. I feel that the purpose of the journey was to detach myself and eventually come back in the matrix, in the real world, where it's like going to, I climb a lot of mountains as a climber in the same way as people have climbed Everest. It can be, it's a journey to prep yourself and be ready for the big adventure. And one thing to summit feels amazing. And if you didn't, if you were close to the summit, then you feel something is missing. You feel something hasn't been accomplished. And that's why people who have attempted Everest, many have attempted multiple times until they succeeded. So sometimes they 2, 3, 4, 5 try. It's expensive, but I understand the thirst for pushing the limit and reach an accomplishment. And I really feel for some people it might be an ego thirst, an ego desire. But I feel that if it's coming from the right place, then I feel that the journey can only be accomplished when we go to the top. And when we're at the top, the goal is not to stay there. Nobody lives on the Everest. I mean, would die first. But it's to come down, share experience, and most importantly, just know that it's behind us. Maybe it was our dream since we were a kid, maybe it came out later, but it's really about an accomplishment. And of course, there's stigma around people climbing Everest who are not real mountaineer and end up just doing it for pride and bragging rights. But this is not the Everest. This is a spiritual mountain. You don't need to be rich for it. You can have nothing and you need nothing. It's really, it's really the only journey that matters. And, when you're out there, I thought really I was at a point after 7.5 years where I said I have enough, and I know that back then I wanted to isolate myself, so wanted to stay on the top, and my ideas was either to like find a remote place in the mountain or an ashram, like not a temple, but like yeah, either an ashram or a monastery where I could live for the rest of my life because I felt that I didn't need anything from society anymore and didn't want anything from society anymore. And I'm not going to go too much into details because I'm finishing the during the part. But I had an experience who made me feel that no, the real journey is to come back down and to live this inner wisdom among others. And of course, I've been challenged more than once, mostly in a relationship. I feel that there's a higher level of wisdom compared to me. I was in a relationship before this journey here, and suffering and creating suffering around me. Not that I'm not creating suffering around me anymore, and not that I'm not struggling in relationships anymore. It's far from it. But I feel different, feel more equipped, feel that there's still something for me to learn. So maybe actually I'm full of shit. Maybe there's a higher mountain. And eventually I'll be back on this mountain one day. Or maybe I'm still on it. I just don't know. And this gonna change. Everything is not here for me to compare and to judge others and feel better. It's just whatever came to me, and I like to project it in this image. So this is my personal journey if you resonate with it. I'm happy. If you don't, you can use it to rectify your own journey, what you feel it is to be a consciousness beyond conditioning, beyond nature. And I think I've done for today. And please comment, like, and if you watch, for me, my criteria to subscribe to a channel that I enjoy is if I watch at least 3 videos of that creator, that means they already bring value to me, and there's a likely chance that I will enjoy further video, and so I subscribe. So please, if it's your 3rd video or more, it costs you nothing, and it helps me to share more with others. So please subscribe. See you in the next one.